battles and learn or construct one of the many different breathing techniques to help behead a demon more expected to go up against. And this can come in many different forms. Breathing techniques, or even a much more simpler solution than that. And you can't really get a more simple solution than the 2 steel barrels and gunpowder approach that Genya Shinazugawa takes. Genya Shinazugawa was a new recruit of the Demon Slaying Corps and graduated alongside the main cast. And even though on the outside he appears to be a foul-mouthed, short-tempered delinquent, after he matures a bit, he really turns out to be a thug with a heart of gold. Though, he lacks one very important talent that makes Demon Slayers what they are, this being the ability to use a breathing technique. And even though he found a workaround for this, before we get too into that, we should discuss the meaning behind his name. Genya Shinazugawa, like other names in Kimetsu no Yaiba, carries with it a meaning, starting first with his family name, Shinazugawa, which is comprised of 3 different characters, which when read together reads out the Immortal River. But the kanji for immortal is slightly different than how his family, given that they were all slaughtered by their recently transformed mother, and the curse of this ironic name follows the family lineage and looms over the mysterious or occult, and to be filled with. So altogether, his name means to be filled with mystery or occult, which works in 2 ways, starting first with him being a nameless figure throughout the first half of the series and consume demon flesh, literally filling himself with the occult, so his name works on a double layer like that. And the reason that Genya consumes demon flesh is because, as I previously mentioned, he is unable to use, he takes on aspects of demon powers, such as their immense physical strength and the regeneration ability, allowing him to battle with them on a more equal level. And due to this lack of breathing technique, Genya's Nichiran also never changed colors, though, because you see, Genya's key weapon in the series is a sawed-off, double-barreled shotgun, which he is a keen marksman with, and he shaped his body to better suit his marksmanship, like building up a tougher upper body that even Tanjiro notices when he meets him again. This is assumedly so that he can hold a shotgun in one hand and a sword in the other. Along with this, he also grew out his hair into a long mullet hawk, so that the ends of his hair can read the wind speed and he can adjust his shots accordingly. And then, on top of that, as I mentioned before, Genya has repurposed his metal, the Scarlet Crimson ore, into making some shots for his buckshot. So that means that his gun is technically capable of slaying a demon if Genya is able to sever the head with a shot. Along with this, as I metal, so his blade ends up being a lot smaller than the average sword. And I feel like this was mostly inspired by the wakizashi range targets. And that's exactly the purpose that Genya uses his Nichiran for, as seen when he blasts off most of the neck of a demon, only to jump in with his sword to try to finish the job. And this comparison to a wakizashi also works thematically with Genya as a character, as even though he isn't as powerful as other demon slayers, he's just as deadly in the right situation. Much like a wakizashi might be smaller than the average sword, it's just as sharp as your ordinary katana. Also, like a walk with the pillars, as they go up against the first Upper Moon demon. And this aspect of the wakizashi is also seen in that fight when Sanmin uses both Genya's Nichiran and his gun to fight the first Upper Moon, with them acting as a paired weapon to Sanmin's regular blade. Though with his loadout of a blade and a shotgun, you could call Genya takes place during the Japanese Taisho period, which was when modernization was sweeping through Japan and changing society quite a lot. So it's not too far out of the question that there would be a demon slayer with some sort of firearm. It's also not that surprising when you realize that Kimetsu no Yaiba actually takes place during or just after World War I. That's just weird when you think about it too much. Along with this, the gun is a core aspect of Genya's character, so much so that in an alternate universe, the high school setting of Kimetsu no Yaiba, he is the ace gunman for his school's shooting club, and has won a national shooting competition, as well with Genya's own character, as he is a very brash and rough-natured individual, and guns are considered to be extremely crude weapons, while also playing into Genya's own inferiority complex and insecurities, as actual marksmanship is only looked down on in Japan and would bring the user only scorn, even by the thugs of Japanese society, since to kill someone with a gun is considered unskillful because it doesn't take a lot of effort to pull a trigger. Which is also represented in the high school setting as well, as when Genya won his shooting contest reward, his brother tore it up in front of everyone, while he was accepting it, really showing that it wasn't something that he considered to be an accomplishment. And as I mentioned, since marksmanship is looked down upon, Genya's use of a gun gives off the impression that he is not as skilled as other demon slayers, and in a way, they're right. Genya doesn't possess the strength required to behead a demon on his own, and he is playing the role of a tough guy to mask his inexperience. though the shotgun is a extension of himself, much like his blade was a representation of himself, as seen best when he consumes a piece of the First Upper Moon Demon and gains access to that First Upper Moon's ability, allowing him to merge a piece of himself with his gun and create a flesh gun technique. For Moon's Flesh Blade, Genya also fully shifts from human to demon, which is a property of the First Upper Moon that we actually see foreshadowed early on when he gives Kaigaku his blood. And in becoming a demon, Genya has gained access to blood demon arts, which also appear to allow Genya to copy anything that he's eaten and even mix the abilities together to create something unique, which is seen when he causes his flesh bullets to grow outwards into massive roots that can bind a target and prevent them from moving, which seems to be of his natural ability to copy the abilities of demons that he's eaten a piece from. And I think I'll call this ability Ultimate Compatibility just for simplicity's sake, because it never actually gets a name in the series itself, which apparently is a rare trait among demon slayers, but not a new concept, as Kokushibo mentions that he's fought a demon slayer before that ate demons. But when he cut him in half, it killed him. Genya's consumption of demons has progressed so far that he bugs off being cut in half after he consumes a little bit of demon hair, along with the roots into a target's bloodstream and use it for a second function, causing them to become massive blood leeches, sucking the blood into the roots and preventing the regular blood flow that a demon needs to use its demon blood art, which makes it the perfect demon hunting demon blood art. And thanks to this ability, the odds and allowing them to claim victory over the First Upper Moon demon. And this attachment to guns, overcoming odds, and becoming a literal demon seems to be in reference to a very famous Japanese figure. This, of course, being Japan's first unifier, Oda Nobunaga, as not only did Nobunaga and Genya come to adolescence through the death of a family member, but they had a rocky relationship with their older brother and were seen as the talentless one and unfit for their position. And on top of that, during Nobunaga's rise to power, he utilized the power of European firearms, which were frowned upon and considered unhonorable and inefficient in warfare, but he demonstrated the true power of these guns, and they became a staple in Japanese warfare from then on. And this aspect can be seen when Western firearm for what it is, and it's the catalyst for his downfall. But Mobile drive to unify Japan, he was branded a demon by his enemies, and he took this label, doubling down and referring to himself as the King of the Six Hells. He really played up that he was a demon, and it was a useful intimidation method, which is similar to how Genya himself actually becomes a demon throughout the story, while taking on aspects of demons into himself. And much like Nobunaga, who early on was Nobu, meaning that he's been through a lot, and you can definitely tell how much he's bulked up thanks to full focus and repetitive action. Though what makes this technique effective is that the moment that you're thinking back to has to be traumatic, and the one that Genya chose is one that he not only considers the biggest tragedy he suffered, but also his biggest regret. As one night, when his mother and brother were late to return, him and his family gathered around and wait for them, when a sudden loud knock wind pillar standing over their now deceased mother, injured and bleeding, and in the moment, Genya didn't realize what had happened to his mother and cursed his brother for killing her when he swore to protect her, which not only had a significant effect on Sanemi's personality, but drove us over the smallest things and push him away, which only caused Genya to get more desperate and strive for his brother's acceptance. He wasn't strong like ending that he would get his Nichiren blade, he wanted to be like his brother. And this desperation is what led him down the path of consuming demonic flesh, as it not only made him more durable, but allowed him to regenerate and gave him great strength. He was thinking that he was doing a great thing, though when this tactic was discovered by Himejima, it was heavily frowned upon by everyone around him. But his brother had a very different reaction to when he found out, and it was saved by Tanjiro. Though Sanemi may not show it, he does this all in order to keep his only remaining family members safe, like he promised he would. But Genya refused to listen to this piece of the flesh sword, turning Genya into a demon himself. Though, unlike his mother, he remained fully in control of his actions and was able to help them secure a victory over the strongest demon. As he exhausted his blood supply, weakening Kokushibo, he was unable to regenerate and began to fade and crumble like a demon, living up to his family name of dying a truly unfortunate death. But in his last, so hard to win back his respect, but feeling like he only became a man who was a burden on his brother. Though, in reality, Genya couldn't see his own worth, as without him, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Mitsuri, and all the grounded approach to demon slaying and lack of a breathing technique ended up being his greatest strength. As Tanjiro describes it, an enemy who perceives you as too weak will lower their defenses, and this lapse in judgment will allow you to break through and win the fight. And given his title of the Breathless Pillar, even in death. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like in the future, I have a Patreon of Shimonetta, a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist, that you can buy from the Buy Shimonetta link below.